Who's this Dekiru, and why do all the pros want to adopt him? By 80sGayTrashGoblin. Chapter 14, Visit to the Airy. Alright y'all, there's no trigger warnings for this chapter, but I do want to make a quick note, and I will also make note in the description, but show some love to Lofi-Geek here on YouTube, Spotify, and I do believe I also have their Tumblr that I'll be posting down below. They make some great lo-fi playlists that I use when I'm studying and are now going to be used for the channel. So yeah, go show some love. But anyways, let's get into the story. Izuku was putting the finishing touches on his analysis of a villain in Hosu, absent-mindedly drinking his fourth cup of coffee. Some nature documentary was playing on the TV, but it registered a static in his mind. He had long abandoned the couch, now just sitting on the floor in front of his laptop. A red feather flew in front of his face, booping his nose. Izuku squawked, falling backwards and knocking over his coffee. He just managed to save it and his laptop. "Keiko, you ass!" "Hey, Izuku," the hero called cheerfully, like he didn't almost spill Izuku's coffee. "You're sure up early. I didn't think I'd see you until noon." Izuku squinted at the clock on his laptop. "Holy shit! It's 6 already?" The two roommates engaged in a staring contest. Izuku was not losing. "Kid, did you not get any sleep last night?" I close my eyes every time I blink." "Kami, kid." Keigo closed his eyes and put a hand on his forehead. "You're going to make me go gray. How are you still awake?" "Coffee?" "What?" Izuku gestured with the mug. "This is my fourth cup." Then he took a very long sip, with slurping. Keigo's eyes visibly twitched. Izuku's eyes widened as they landed onto the balcony of the Airy. Keigo had to hold his hand as he walked into his office. Plush carpet, a nice desk, the wall that at the balcony was made entirely of windows. And there was a TV on the other side of the wall across from his desk. On the floor was a little nook that was filled with pillows and blankets, and there were a few file cabinets behind the desk with a coffee maker on it. There were a bunch of paintings of various birds on the walls, and a collection of some of the best fan art that was framed and hung on his walls, with little plaques on the walls. Embarrassingly, a few of Izuku's drawings were also up there. "Really? The bird paintings?" Izuku sassed. "I have a brand to keep, fledgling," Keigo shot back, dragging him to the elevator, which also had bird paintings. "Alright, your office is one thing, but the elevator is a little excessive." He raised an eyebrow. Are there bird paintings in the entire building?" The silence was damning. "Of course there is." They walked into the small cafeteria, which had a small KFC in it. Of course. There were a few sidekicks wandering around, but Keigo pulled him to a table with two sidekicks in particular. Yes, Izuku was still holding his hand. He's a little touch-starved. Sue him. "Saisei. Mitsurin." Keigo waved. The two women waved back. The first, the sidekick Phoenix, had scarlet wings coming from her body and long, wavy, dark ginger hair, light blue eyes, and freckles. She was wearing a simple sweater and jeans, with a pair of glasses on her nose, and was also on fire, although it didn't seem to be disturbing anything. The other woman, the sidekick Coralax, had many piercings in her ears and on her face. Her hair a rainbow mohawk and wings a shimmering mosaic of colors. She was wearing her hero costume, a silver bodysuit with thigh-high combat boots, and her goggles around her neck. He was glad to see she took some of his suggestions, based on some of the armor padding on her body.
Hey, boss. Hello, sir.
So, you two remember Dekiru, right? Keigo asked. The two looked at each other.
Yes?
Phoenix asked skeptically.
Where's this going?
Corlax asked, raising an eyebrow.
And who's the kid?
Keigo let go of Izuku's hand, instead wrapping an arm around his shoulder and dragging him forwards.
This is Dekiru.
Their eyes comically widened in disbelief, looking at each other.
You're not just fucking with us, are you?
Corlax asked.
Me?
Keigo asked in mock offense.
I would never.
Izuku rolled his eyes, elbowing the hero in the gut.
Hi, I'm Dekiru,
he said, holding his hand out to Corlax.
I'm glad you took the suggestion about adding a layer of body armor to your costume.
The woman grinned, taking his hand.
Corlax, though you knew that already,
she said, then gestured to Phoenix.
This is...
Phoenix, I know, Izuku said, turning to the other hero with his hand out.
Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you too,
the heroine said, taking his hand. Oh, now you have manners, Keigo grumbled from behind him. Izuku kicked him in the shins.
So what's all this for?
Corlax asked, continuing to eat her breakfast. I have paperwork, and this one, Keigo whacked him in the back of the head, cannot be trusted to be left at home alone. So I offered to let him visit the area in person.
I can be trusted,
Izuku pouted. Keigo turned to his sidekicks. A couple of nights ago, I caught him training the raccoons to fight.
Hey, don't badmouth the 3rd Raccoon Battalion.
The women were trying to suppress giggles.
And what about the other 2 battalions?
Corlax asked.
The 1st Raccoon Battalion is in Orokamano Park. And the 2nd Raccoon Battalion is behind Hori-san's shop.
Keigo groaned from behind him. I'm grabbing a bucket and doing paperwork. You two are gonna get an email about it sometime later. I don't know when. Make sure he doesn't start a 4th Raccoon Battalion.
Hey!
The hero walked towards the KFC outlet, and Izuku rolled his eyes.
You guys don't think you could convince him to take down some of the bird paintings? The amount he has is honestly a little excessive.
Phoenix adjusted her glasses, probably changing the subject to something other than her boss's taste in decorations.
Well, the analyses we both got from you were a while ago. If you like, we could go into the gym and you could give us something based on where we are now. We'll pay you,
Corlax added, leaning over onto the table with a suggestive eyebrow wiggle. Izuku raised an eyebrow.
Pay me what? I know where his secret stash of donuts is. Throw a coffee in. Deal.
Izuku grinned as he followed the 2 heroines to the Ares gym, already pulling out his notebook. Keigo leaned on the doorway, looking into the Analyst branch of his agency. The Analyst and Izuku were standing around the large center table, files from various cases spread out everywhere. Izuku had his laptop open as he flitted through various tabs, and he moved through cases like lightning. On the faces of the analysts he hired, Keigo could see the awe on their faces. A match of the awe that was on his face when he first saw the kid in action.
I'd be surprised if the kid doesn't completely solve all our cases,
Saisei said, coming up behind him. She was in costume, about to go on patrol. I have no doubt. He didn't even realize he was smiling until she raised an eyebrow. Well, if you got a case to pick up, don't let me stop you. Saisei rolled her eyes fondly, slipping into the branch.
Excuse me. She cleared her throat. I'm here for the habit headgear case. Oh, that one is, this one, Omeiji said, grabbing a folder and handing it to the hero. She opened it up, flipping through it. There's a lot of post-it notes in here. Sorry, Izuku muttered sheepishly, probably pulled out of his trance by Saisei's entrance. I got a little excited. Don't be, she said with a smile, closing the case and handing it back. She tapped the comms. I'll be in touch, but I do have patrol. The group collectively waved bye to her as she walked out. Keigo stepped forward then. And you, Izuku, have a pair of glasses to go get. Oh, right! Izuku exclaimed, starting to pack up his notebook and laptop. Sorry, I got a little excited. I know. Keigo rolled his eyes. Mr. I'm going to stay up all night working while drinking 4 cups of coffee. Actually, that's relatively tame for me, Izuku responded back. Keigo sighed. Kid, you're going to be the death of me. What kind of glasses do you need? Umari asked. Because we've got a few pairs of blue light glasses if you want one. Actually, that's exactly what I need, Izuku beamed. Then let me get a pair. Umari scuttled into the back room, getting a simple pair of round black frames, but she placed them on his face. They seem to fit, she said, fussing with the sides of his head. Yeah, they don't feel like they're going to fall off, he muttered, moving his head from side to side. I don't feel anything different. You're not going to feel anything yet, Fujino pointed out, taking a sip of his coffee. What you will notice is when you don't have a raging headache. That's a good point. Keigo huffed in amusement, sending out a feather to slowly drag Izuku to him. Well, I want dinner, so we're going to go. Izuku rolled his eyes, waving goodbye to his people. As they walked out of the area, Keigo said, You look good. Thanks, he responded with a beaming smile. What Keigo wouldn't do for this kid. Chapter 15, Consequences. Alright, be right back, y'all. I fucking hate paperwork, Keigo muttered, filling out the last page. There was paperwork to transfer control of the area to Saisei, paperwork to create a new branch in Mustafu, and then paperwork to give control of that branch to Mitsurine. At least once the branch was in Mitsurine's control, all the necessary setup paperwork would be her problem. It's the little miracles. He smiled as he checked his phone, cracking his neck and stretching his back. It seemed that Nedzu had received his message about Mustafu General Hospital and Altair Junior High, if the threatening smiley face was to be believed. Excuse me. Seriously, how did he and Izuku manage to make smiley faces threatening? Oh, one sec, y'all. Sorry, yo. I'm back. Alright.
Seriously, how did he and Izuku manage to make smiley faces threatening? He raised an eyebrow when his phone went off, the Pink Panther theme that he had set for Detective Tsukouchi ringing through his office. What's up, Detective? I have a lady named Bakugo Mitsuki screaming at Sansa to see an Izuku-chan. Keigo sighed. He really didn't want to have to talk to the Bakugos today, but apparently the universe had decided for him. Who else is there? Her husband and son. Well, I wasn't planning on doing this today, but I might as well get this over with. There was a pause, then the detective spoke in a warning tone. What were you planning to do? Don't worry about it, Tsukouchi. Keigo had finished putting away his paperwork, sticking a post-it note on the pile of paperwork for the Eri Jr. I'll be on my way. Seriously, what were you... Click. Keigo jumped off the balcony, flying out and towards the Mustafu police department, slipping his phone into his pocket. He could answer Tsukouchi's questions in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes as he flew lazy circles in the sky, procrastinating the detective's grilling as much as possible. But eventually he flew down to the station. The flight helped him sort out his thoughts. While Izuku was right that the teachers were partially to blame for teaching Bakugo, the kid still did so out of his own free will. He wasn't completely blameless, and while Keigo's gonna give him a second chance from Izuku, Bakugo wasn't gonna get off scot-free. Keigo strolled in, reveling in the amazed looks he got from ongoers. When he entered the police station, the officers clearly tried to keep the amazed looks to themselves, but overall didn't approach him. However, an officer with a cat head approached him. Officer Sansa, if the name tag was correct. Detective Tsukouchi is waiting for you in his office, Sansa said respectively, turning on his heel. With nothing else to do, it's not like he has a map of the station. Keigo followed him. Are the Bakugos in his office too? Keigo asked. Yes, they were causing a disturbance. Sansa made a face like he'd bitten into a lemon, and Keigo had to bite down and chuckle. As they approached the door labeled Detective Tsukouchi Naomasa, they could hear both a distinctly feminine voice and what Keigo remembered as the Bakugo kid's voice yelling. When Sansa opened the door, it was to Tsukouchi behind his desk with his hands up, an older woman with spiky blonde hair, Bakugo Mitsuki, his brain helpfully supplied him, leaning over with her hands on the desk. Surprisingly, she wasn't yelling at the detective, but at her son, who was yelling back. Seems like he didn't just inherit her looks. The husband was just sitting calmly in his chair. In other words, it was a clusterfuck. Hawks, good to see you, Tsukouchi said, clearly relieved. Why does a fucking pro-hero need to be here? Bakugo-san shouted. What happened to Izuku-chan? Oh. Whoops, that was supposed to be Mrs. Bakugo. Ma'am, that is classified information, Keigo said smoothly, maneuvering awkwardly into the room with his wings. But rest assured, he is safe. What do you mean, classified information? With all due respect... No, you don't fucking understand, Bakugo-san snarled. I just got a phone call from the hospital that Inko's passed away a fucking week ago, and I was never told. And when I asked to see your son, my nephew, I'm told that I have no right to that information because we aren't blood relatives. She's my best friend, and you... She smacked the Bakugo kid when he was about to speak up. We'll talk about your shitty behavior later. Keigo and Tsukauchi both looked at each other, with the same thought. Yikes. Nedzu would want to hear about that, Keigo muttered. Why would the fucking principal of UA want to know about shitty Deku's mom? Bakugo Kid shouted, earning himself another smack in the head. Because Midoriya-kun didn't even get a call, Tsukauchi said. The only way he found out was the receptionist telling him after he went to visit her. When Keigo raised an eyebrow at the detective, he said, "They deserve to know something." Why the fuck would anyone do that? You fucking know why. The Bakugo Kid shouted back. The Bakugo husband cleared his throat, causing the two standing up to look at each other and slowly sit down. We would like to know where he is, he said calmly. Or at least, how he is. A hero has him under their care, using the emergency fostering license, Keigo said. We won't say which, for both of their safeties, but rest assured that Midoriya is safe. It seemed like the whole family breathed a sigh of relief, even the kids, surprisingly enough. That's good to hear, the Bakugo husband said. Keigo turned around a chair and sat down. What are your names? I never caught them on the way in. Oh, of course. I'm Bakugo Mitsuki. This is my husband, Bakugo Masaru, and this brat is my son, Bakugo Katsuki. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mitsuki-san, Masaru-san. Keigo shook each of their hands. Apologies for the classified information, but currently, Mustafu General Hospital and Aldera Junior High are both under investigation. But why? Mitsuki asked, confusion plain on her face. Interestingly, Katsuki's face scrunched up at the school's name, something like anger and guilt on his face. Court discrimination, Tsukauchi said, as well as student neglect and academic fraud. Is that why Izuku transferred out of school? Masaru asked. Among other things, yes, Keigo said. We also need to talk about your son. What does Katz have to do with any of this? Mitsuki shouted, standing back up and slamming her palms on the desk again. Because he's the main instigator of the bullying against Midoriya. The entire family went silent, which is almost scarier. Katz? Is this true? Mitsuki asked quietly. Katsuki growled, snapping back, and any remorse or guilt he previously showed was gone. Deku fucking deserved it! The Bakugo parents gasped, and Mitsuki smacked him on the back of the head. What the fuck? No! I don't want to hear your justifications, you fucking brat! How could you? Keigo cleared his throat and flapped his wings, fluffing out his feathers. Mitsuki huffed, sitting back down. Neither Bakugo were calm, just letting the anger simmer. Midoriya made a fair point when I talked to him about this, he said, letting his feathers rest back down. It's not entirely his fault. The teachers were ignoring the bullying at best and actively encouraging it at worst. However, this doesn't mean he's going to get out of this unpunished. We decided the following. Keigo slid a small packet across to the Bakugos for them to flip through as he spoke. Katsuki is blacklisted from UA. He is allowed to go to another hero school, though, preferably a boarding school. He is also required to go to anger management classes and therapy, and he'll be attending the school on probation. One strike and he'll be expelled. The entire family seemed to be silent. Thank you for doing this for Katsuki, even if he doesn't deserve it. Mitsuki said slowly, blinking back tears. Katsuki started to growl, but Masaru placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and he cut off with a simple huff. You should be thanking Midoriya, Keigo said, flicking his wings absent-mindedly. He's the one who asked for Bakugo to continue being a hero. Bakugo could make a fine hero. He just needs an attitude check. The family quietly shuffled out, Katsuki dragging his feet, and Mitsuki death glaring her son. Tsukauchi glanced over at Keigo. That wasn't what I expected. Keigo sighed, completely exhausted. I'm going to go back to the agency and take a nap. The detective also sighed. Kami, I wish. He snorted. Well, here's to hoping. They both cheered and Keigo flew off, going back to the agency. Hopefully it hasn't been overrun by raccoons. I think we'll do one more chapter. Oh. One sec, y'all. Sorry about that, y'all. Chapter 16. The plot thickens. Group chat. Investigation team for Broccoli-chan. 8:29 a.m. Nedzu. We must have a meeting at UA today. Detective Tsukauchi. Uh-oh. Eraserhead. Oh no. Hawks. I have to get Izuku to UA today for Hound Dog. Meet then? Detective Tsukauchi. That works for me. Izuku took a deep breath in, playing with the hem of his shirt while he shuffled outside of the door. He was still nervous even though he knew he shouldn't be, logically. Just the idea of talking about his feelings to a total stranger made his skin crawl. You're gonna be fine. Aizawa's gruff voice made him jump a bit. He was so lost in his thoughts that he forgot about the hero who had led him there. Ryo is a good person. Hell, I've gone to him about my own problems. Right. Izuku nodded. And the first session is just about connecting and getting to know me. Aizawa gently nudged him into the office. It didn't look like a stereotypical therapist's office. Hound Dog himself had a spinny chair that he sat on, and there were multiple beanbag chairs around. A bookshelf was against the wall, and next to Hound Dog's desk was a small table covered in fidget toys. There was a small jar of candy next to Hound Dog's computer. Midoriya-kun, it's good to see you, Hound Dog said. Come in, make yourself comfortable. Izuku nodded, sitting down on one of the beanbag chairs. Thank you, Hound Dog-san. Please, call me Inui, he said. And if you would like, you can grab one of the fidgets off the table. Izuku plucked up a little cube covered in buttons. With one hand occupied by the fidget, his other hand stopped wringing his shirt, letting him breathe a little bit easier, marginally. Now, this is the first session, and my goal is to make this as safe of a place as possible for you. How? And Inui-san continued, making notes on his clipboard. We don't have to talk about anything you don't want to, and you are the one who sets the pace. That made him relax a little bit. He's not diving into the deep end right away.
How much do you already know?
Only the basics, what's already on your medical file, Inui-san said. But I want to hear it from you. Izuku nodded, took a deep breath in, and started from the very beginning. I'm sorry, it's been what? Keigo had slammed his hands down on the table, his feathers fluffed all the way out. He was well aware that it wasn't very professional of him, but damn it, he didn't care. Eraserhead and the detective were in similar states of shock, and Nedzu was grimacing as he sipped his tea. They had just entered the room, and the stoat slaps them with this. The detective stood up from next to him, putting a hand on his shoulder.
Nedzu, I'm afraid we're going to need a bit more context.
Of course, Nedzu responded with a nod, pouring up a teapot.
Would anyone like some tea?
All three of them shook their heads, with Keigo slowly sitting down, the detective doing so after him.
As you know, I have been doing my own private investigations into Altera Junior High and Mustafu General Hospital.
Nedzu had a wicked gleam in his eye, making the three of them shiver.
I finished sending my report on Altera to the police, and was going through previous billings and medical records of Midoriya Inka when I realized that all paper trails of her body stopped 4 days ago.
Which is the day after Midoriya-san reportedly died, the detective said. So her body's been missing for 4 days and the hospital did nothing? Eraserhead asked.
So I kept looking,
Nedzu continued.
And I found security footage of villains stealing the body.
Send it to me, the detective said solemnly. We'll find them.
Already done.
The stoat sipped his tea.
We're looking for a villain with a warping quirk and a villain with a disintegration quirk.
Keigo slumped over, his head in his hands. What am I going to tell Izuku? They hadn't even started making funeral arrangements, and this happened. Eraserhead spoke up. We have to tell him. It's illogical not to. It was the detective who spoke up, surprisingly. I don't think it's a good idea. The kid attempted suicide 3 days ago, and he's still grieving. We should let him finish mourning before we spring this on him. It'll be worse if you treat him like glass, Eraserhead said. He's not fragile. He's not in the best mental state either. It'll be better if we wait until he's recovered some. Nedzu sipped his tea.
Hawks, you are the one who's currently the acting guardian of Midoriya-kun. What do you think?
Keigo's wings fluttered nervously.
He's a strong kid, but I don't know. It might just be a me thing, but you didn't see him when he had a panic attack after entering his room. I'm worried about the kid, but he deserves to know.
He dragged a hand down his face. All his training from the HPSC never prepared him for this. I'm no good with this stuff. You three are probably better informed than I am. Nedzu closed his eyes and set his teacup down.
I think we should wait to tell him until we have Inui-san's opinion. He'll have the best picture of Midoriya-kun's current state.
The three men looked at each other. It was the best compromise they were going to get. Eraserhead stood up first. I have papers I have to grade, he said, then muttered under his breath something about idiotic students. The detective did so next. I'll get started on processing the security footage you sent me, he said, adjusting his hat. Keigo finally stood up with a sigh, letting his wings fold up. I'll go wait for Izuku, he said, checking his phone for the time. Not even 15 minutes. Damn. And his inbox was full of emails. Nedzu nodded, a clear sign of dismissal, as he went back to sipping his tea with his eyes closed. The three shuffled out of there awkwardly, and Keigo breathed a sigh of relief. Eraserhead just nodded before walking off, leaving the detective and Keigo standing there awkwardly. Keigo cleared his throat. You'll update me on how the investigation is going, right? Of course. The detective smiled. Something that was probably meant to be reassuring, but just came across as strained. Now, if you'll excuse me. Keigo nodded, stepping out of the way as the detective laughed. With a sigh, he turned to find his way to Hound Dog's office. He was not looking forward to the next 45 minutes. Alright, y'all. I really hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Again, massive thanks to Lofi-Geek for the playlist for the background. Let me know if I need to adjust the sound at all next time. And yeah, thank you all so much for coming and hanging out. Ciao for now.